The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps, turning the night into a blurry watercolor of regret and desperation. Officer Daniel Hayes, badge number 4782, pulled his patrol car to the curb at the deserted bus stop on Flatbush Avenue, his wipers slashing through the downpour like accusations he couldn't outrun. There, huddled against the plexiglass shelter, was a kid, no more than 19, shaking not just from the cold, but from something deeper, a terror that twisted his face into a mask of silent screams. In his clenched fist, a crumpled note fluttered like a white flag of surrender, and as Daniel stepped out into the storm, the first lightning crackled, illuminating the words scrawled across it. To the cop who saved me last summer. If you're out there, I need you now more than ever. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs like a caged animal, the rain mixing with the sudden sweat beading on his forehead. He hadn't thought about that night in months. The anonymous call about a kid jumped in the park, the blur of fists and slurs, the way he'd waded in without backup, pulling the boy from the mob with nothing but his shield and a roar that echoed his own buried rage. The kid had vanished into the shadows before Daniel could even ask his name, leaving only a whispered, "Thank you," and a fleeting brush of fingers that lingered in Daniel's dreams like a ghost. Now here he was, this trembling figure with wide hazel eyes and a lip split from God knows what fresh hell, staring up at him as if Daniel were both savior and executioner. You're him," the boy stammered, voice cracking like thunder, unfolding the note with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "I wrote this for you. Every word." Daniel snatched the paper, his boots splashing in puddles that mirrored the chaos in his chest. The ink had run in places, but the message was clear, raw, lines about nights spent hiding bruises from a father who preached fire and brimstone, about the ache of loving in secret when the world screamed it was sin, about spotting Daniel's patrol car last summer and feeling, for the first time, like maybe he wasn't alone. "I saw you again today," it ended, patrolling the same beat. "If you find this, please, don't let them take me away." Daniel's throat tightened. Them could only mean one thing in this neighborhood. The family, the church elders, the invisible noose of small-town bigotry that followed kids like this one even to the big city. He glanced at the boy's wrist, saw the fresh red welts peeking from his sleeve, and knew this wasn't just a cry for help. It was a detonation, blowing open doors Daniel had bolted shut years ago. "Eli," the boy said finally, as if the name were a confession, rubbing his arms against the chill that went bone deep. "I'm Eli Rivera, and I think they're coming for me tonight." Daniel nodded, the weight of the badge suddenly heavier than the storm clouds overhead, because saving Eli last summer had been duty, but this felt like fate crashing into his carefully constructed walls. The ones he'd built after his own coming out imploded his life at 22, losing his first love to a hate crime, watching his badge become both armor and shackle in a department that whispered "don't ask, don't tell," even after the policy died. He slid an arm around Eli's shoulders, guiding him toward the car, the note burning a hole in his pocket like incriminating evidence. "Get in," he murmured, voice low and steady despite the tremor in his gut. "We're not letting that happen." As the cruiser's door clicked shut, sealing them in a bubble of vinyl seats and flickering dashboard lights, Eli's breath hitched, his body still wired for flight. Daniel cranked the heat, watching steam fog the windows like secrets veiling themselves. "Tell me everything," he said, pulling out slowly, eyes scanning the mirrors for shadows that might be more than rain. Eli's story spilled out in fits and starts. A Puerto Rican family transplanted from the Bronx projects to this gentrifying pocket of Brooklyn, a father who fixed cars by day and quoted Leviticus by night, a mother who baked flan with trembling hands, pretending the bruises on her arms were from roughhousing with the kids. Eli had hidden his truth for years, stolen glances at boys in the locker room, a journal of poems he burned page by page, but last summer's attack had cracked the facade. The attackers? Classmates from his old Catholic school, tipped off by a friend who'd found his phone, photos of a pride flag doodled in the margins of his notebook. "I ran after you pulled me out," Eli admitted, staring at his sneakers scuffing the floor mat. "Didn't want you to see me break down. But I couldn't stop thinking about you, how you didn't hesitate, How you looked at me like I was worth saving. Daniel's grip tightened on the wheel, the city blurring past, bodegas with neon signs flickering, open 24/7, graffiti-tagged walls whispering stories of survival. Worth saving. The words echoed his own doubts. The nights he'd lain awake after his partner, Jake, was beaten to death outside a Chelsea bar. Jake, with his easy laugh and tattooed knuckles that spelled "love wins" across his fingers. Daniel had thrown himself into the job after that, rising through the ranks on sheer grit. But promotion came with isolation. Colleagues who slapped his back at barbecues but crossed the street when pride flags waved. A captain who valued his tough cop rep over his humanity. They pulled into the precinct lot, but Daniel didn't kill the engine. "You can't go home tonight," he said flatly. "Not until we sort this." Eli nodded, but his eyes darted to the rear view, where headlights pierced the downpour like accusatory stares. "They know where I am. My cousin works dispatch. He feeds them everything." A chill slithered down Daniel's spine. Corruption in the ranks wasn't new, but this close? It reeked of the old boys club protecting their own bloodlines over broken kids. He radioed in a vague, personal matter to avoid the logs, then gunned it toward his off-the-books safe house, a cramped walk-up in bed-stewie he'd kept since Jake's death, stocked with canned soup and ghosts. The apartment door creaked open to a space frozen in time. Faded pride posters curling at the edges, a half-empty bottle of Jack on the nightstand, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken grief. Eli stepped inside like he was crossing into a sanctuary, his shoulders easing for the first time. "This place. It's you," he said softly, tracing a finger over a framed photo of Daniel and Jake at Coney Island, arms slung around each other, grins wide against the cyclone's shadow. Daniel flinched, the touch igniting memories he'd buried under layers of procedure and patrol shifts. He corrected, voice rough. "That was a long time ago." Eli turned, hazel eyes locking onto blue, and in that gaze, Daniel saw his own reflection, fractured but fighting. They talked until the rain tapered to a drizzle, Eli unspooling the threads of his life. The secret art classes where he sketched lovers and stolen moments. The online forums where usernames hit hearts. The way his little sister, Maria, had slipped him a rainbow bracelet last Easter, whispering, "I know, Eli, and it's okay." Daniel shared fragments in return. His Irish Catholic upbringing in Queens, the sergeant father who called his orientation a phase until it wasn't, the department's quiet tolerance that felt like a leash. By dawn, the space between them hummed with something electric, not lust, but recognition. Two souls who danced on the edge of oblivion, now tethered by a note that fate had delivered. But peace was a luxury neither could afford. As sunlight slanted through the blinds, Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hand him over, Hayes. Family matters. Or your secrets go public." The sender? Eli's cousin, Marco, the dispatch rat with a grudge against sinners that ran deeper than blood. Daniel's blood ran cold. His secrets weren't just Jake. They were the off-record favors for queer kids in crisis, the anonymous donations to shelters, the badge he'd wielded like a weapon against his own. Eli paled, reading over his shoulder. He's bluffing, right? But Daniel knew better. In a city where blue walls had black hearts, bluffs turned to bullets fast. The day unfolded like a taut wire. Daniel called in sick, barricading them inside with takeout from the halal cart downstairs and playlists of old Springsteen to drown the paranoia. Eli sketched while Daniel paced, his pencil capturing Daniel's profile in swift, sure strokes. Jaw set, eyes stormy, a vulnerability peeking through the uniform's armor. "You're beautiful when you're thinking," Eli murmured, and Daniel laughed, a rusty sound, waving it off. But the compliment lodged in his chest, warming spaces Jake had left frozen. They cooked dinner together, spaghetti from a box, sauce doctored with basil from the fire escape, trading stories of first crushes. Eli's on a choir boy who sang like angels but prayed like demons. Daniel's on a lifeguard whose whistle calls still echoed in his pulse. Night fell heavy, the city humming beyond the walls like a beast stirring. They crashed on the couch, Eli curled under a blanket that smelled faintly of Jake's cologne, Daniel in the armchair, gun within reach. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled, fists in the park, slurs sharp as knives, a hand reaching through the dark. Daniel woke to Eli's gasp, the boy bolt upright, sweat slicked and wild-eyed. Nightmare, Eli whispered. About them finding us. Daniel crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling him into a hug that started platonic but deepened into solace, arms wrapping tight, breaths sinking in the quiet. No words, just the steady thrum of heartbeats, a bridge over chasms of fear. Morning brought escalation, a knock at the door, insistent, followed by Marco's voice booming through the mail slot. Open up, Eli. Dad's worried sick. This cop's poison, dragging you into his fag world. Daniel's hand flew to his holster, but Eli grabbed his wrist, shaking his head. Don't. He's baiting you. They waited in silence, Marco's curses fading down the stairs, but the damage was done. Eli's face crumpled, the weight of familial betrayal carving lines too deep for his youth. Why do they hate us so much? He asked, voice small. Daniel knelt, cupping his chin gently. Because they're scared. Of what they don't understand. Of what we have, the courage to feel it anyway. They needed a plan. Daniel reached out to his one ally in the department, Lieutenant Sarah Klein, a no-nonsense dyke who'd mentored him through Jake's aftermath, her office a safe harbor amid the testosterone storms. Over burner phones, she promised to run interference. Fake reports, a tale on Marco, resources for Eli to vanish if needed. You're playing with fire, Danny, she warned, voice crackling with static and sisterly steel. But if anyone's worth burning for, it's these kids. Get him to the shelter on Myrtle. I'll meet you there at noon. Gratitude swelled in Daniel's chest, a reminder that not all blue was blind. The drive to Myrtle Avenue was a gauntlet, weaving through traffic thick as accusations, eyes on every rearview shadow. Eli clutched the note like a talisman, his free hand brushing Daniel's knee in silent thanks. At the shelter, a nondescript brownstone with rainbows etched in the window glass, Sarah waited, her leather jacket slung over a clipboard, exuding the calm of someone who'd stared down riots. Kid's tough, she said after hugging Eli fierce. Reminds me of you at that age. Inside, counselors swarmed with kindness. Hot cocoa, legal aid packets, a room with twin beds and locks that clicked like promises. But as Daniel turned to leave, Eli's hand shot out, fingers intertwining with his. Stay? Just for a minute. The minute stretched, Sarah tactfully vanishing to check emails. In the dim light of the counselor's office, walls papered with survivor stories, Eli's confession tumbled free. That night in the park. You didn't just save my body. You saved the part of me that wanted to live. And now, with you, I feel like maybe I can love without apology. Daniel's world tilted, the badge's weight dissolving into the warmth of Eli's palm. He leaned in, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. I've been running from that feeling since Jake. Afraid it'd break me again. Eli's smile was tentative, luminous. What if it heals you instead? The kiss that followed was inevitable, soft as snowfall, lips brushing in exploration, not conquest, a seal on vows unspoken. No heat, just the profound ache of connection, 2 fractured hearts aligning like puzzle pieces long lost. Sarah's cough from the doorway shattered the moment, her grin wry. Timing's everything, boys. We've got company. Marco's got a tail on the place. Time to move. Evacuation was swift. Back allies, a borrowed van from the shelter's network. Daniel at the wheel with Eli's shotgun, Sarah riding rear guard. They aimed for a safe house upstate, a cabin owned by a queer collective, woods thick with privacy, lake water cold as clarity. The drive north was a revelation. Highways unspooling like veins, radio crooning folk tunes about outlaws and lovers. Eli opened up more, his artist soul painting pictures of dreams, a gallery show in Soho, canvases alive with queer joy, no more hiding in margins. Daniel shared his own buried ambition, writing a book on the invisible war against LGBTQ+ youth in uniform, turning pain into policy. Dusk painted the cabin in golds and purples as they arrived, the collective's founder, a silver-haired trans woman named Lena, greeting them with stew simmering and stories of her own escapes. This place is for rebuilding, she said, eyes twinkling. Not just walls, souls. That night, under a quilt stitched with pride patches, Daniel and Eli lay side by side, hands linked across the divide. Conversation flowed like the lake outside. Fears of forever, joys of now, the tentative shape of us emerging from the wreckage. But dawn brought the storm's echo, sirens in the distance. Not thunder, but blue and red fury. Marco had flipped the script, filing a missing persons report laced with lies. Eli kidnapped by a predatory cop. Daniel's phone exploded with voicemails from the captain. Stand down, Hayes. This looks bad. Eli's face drained of color. It's over. They'll take me back. Daniel's resolve hardened like steel. Not without a fight. They barricaded, Lena dialing allies, ACLU lawyers, media contacts hungry for scandal. Sarah arrived in a screech of tires, her precinct mole confirming the raid. SWAT en route, tipped by Marco's fabricated evidence. Tension coiled tight, the cabin a pressure cooker of whispers and what-ifs. Eli paced, sketching frantic abstracts of chaos on scrap paper, while Daniel loaded his service weapon, heart pounding a war drum. If they come, he said, voice steady, we go out telling our truth. The standoff brewed as helicopters thumped overhead, spotlights carving the woods like scalpels. Megaphones blared. Hayes, surrender the minor. Eli grabbed Daniel's arm, eyes fierce. I'm not a minor to you. I'm yours, if you'll have me. The words unlocked something primal. Daniel pulling him close in a crush of uniform and desperation, lips meeting in a kiss that defied the floodlights. Raw, affirming, a rebellion in flesh. Then, the twist, Sarah's voice crackled over the radio, triumphant. Stand down, all units. We've got the tapes. Marco's confession, coerced by the family elders. It's all falling apart. The raid dissolved into confusion, officers peeling away as news vans swarmed the access road. Inside, Lena hooped, popping champagne from the cellar, while Eli and Daniel collapsed into laughter, tears salting the bubbles. Weeks blurred into a new rhythm. Eli enrolled in community college art classes, his sketches evolving from shadows to light. Daniel testified before city council, his book proposal landing an agent amid the headlines. Prejudices cracked under scrutiny. The department suspended Marco. The Riveras faced charges, Eli's mother showing up at the cabin with apologies and a tentative hug. Friendships bloomed. Sarah and Lena trading war stories over brunches, a network of survivors weaving safety nets. Yet the deepest arc was theirs. One crisp autumn evening, by the lake's edge, Daniel knelt, not in proposal, but promise. I thought saving you was my job, he said, slipping Jake's old ring onto Eli's finger, resized for a new chapter. But loving you? That's my life. Eli's yes was a whisper carried on the wind, their embrace silhouetted against the sunset, a testament to love's tenacity. In the city that never sleeps, two men had awakened, to each other, to the fight still raging, to a future etched not in fear, but fierce, unyielding hope. The cabin's isolation had been a balm, but returning to Brooklyn felt like stepping back into a minefield, each familiar corner laced with fresh hazards. Daniel eased the truck into his spot behind the precinct, Eli's hand still warm in his from the gearshift, a quiet anchor amid the engine's dying rumble. You sure about this? Eli asked, voice laced with the old tremor, eyes scanning the alley like it held phantoms. Daniel squeezed his fingers, the ring glinting like a dare. We've got backup. Sarah's got the watch commander in our pocket now, and the press is sniffing around Marco's mess. No one's touching you. Inside the station, the air hummed with sidelong glances and murmurs that died when Daniel passed. His locker room banter had always been sparse, a survival tactic honed after Jake, but now it carried an edge, defiance in his stride, Eli's backpack slung over one shoulder like a badge of its own. Captain Ruiz summoned him to the office before he could even clock in. The doors clicked, sealing them in a room thick with cigar smoke and unspoken judgments. Hayes, Ruiz growled, a burly Latino with a mustache that hid his micro-expressions. This boy's got you twisted up. Families pressing charges, emotional distress, endangerment. You want to play house, do it off duty. Daniel's jaw clenched, the words boy and house landing like slaps, echoing the slurs he'd swallowed for years. Elijah Rivera's 19, sir. Legal adult. And the only endangerment was from his cousin's vigilante bullshit, which IA's investigating as we speak. Ruiz leaned back, chair creaking under his bulk, eyes narrowing to slits. Loyalty's a two-way street, Danny. Department's got its image to protect. You go public with this. Romance. The word dripped sarcasm, a poison pill. Could cost you the shield. The threat hung, but Daniel met it head-on, channeling the fire Eli had reignited. Cost me? Or cost them the headlines when I talk about how we let dispatch rats target queer kids? Ruiz's face darkened, but a knock interrupted. Sarah, clipboard in hand, her presence a battering ram. Captain, counsel's here. Rivera's statement on the coercion, it's gold. Puts Marco away for tampering. She shot Daniel a wink, subtle as a blade. Ruiz waved them out, muttering about damn activists, but the tide had turned, if only by inches. Eli waited in the bullpen, perched on a plastic chair amid the chaos of ringing phones and coffee-stained reports, his sketchpad open to a half-formed portrait of Daniel. Fierce lines, tender eyes. Whispers rippled, the old guard clustering by the vending machine, their stares like probes. One rookie, a fresh-faced kid from Staten Island, sidled up with a hesitant grin. Heard you got heart, Rivera? That takes guts. Eli's shoulders eased, the small kindness a crack in the armor of isolation. But not all cracks let light in. As they left, a veteran sergeant spat, "Ferry Patrol," under his breath, loud enough to sting. Their first real test came that weekend. Eli's art showcase at a local cafe in Williamsburg, a converted warehouse buzzing with hipsters and hidden histories. Daniel arrived in civvies, jeans that hugged his runner's build, a flannel shirt unbuttoned just enough to hint at the man beneath the uniform, feeling exposed without the badge's weight. The space thrummed, fairy lights strung like constellations, canvases leaning against exposed brick, the air scented with patchouli and fresh paint. Eli's pieces dominated one wall, abstracts of fractured identities mending in color bursts, a central triptych titled Badge of Honor, Daniel's silhouette woven through riots of blue and rainbow, vulnerability etched in every stroke. Pride swelled in Daniel's chest as guests murmured appreciations, but tension simmered beneath. Eli's father, Ramon, had been cited in the city, paroled early on good behavior. His release a whisper through the family grapevine. Daniel scanned the crowd, hand itching for his off-duty piece holstered at his ankle. Eli circulated like a comet, his laugh light but eyes shadowed, until a voice sliced through. "Mijo? What is this? Filth." Ramon stood in the doorway, broad as a storm cloud, flanked by two cousins, their faces masks of righteous fury. The room hushed, conversations curdling. Eli froze, palette knife trembling in his grip, paint flecking his jeans like blood. "Dad, this is my life now." Ramon's eyes raked the triptych, landing on Daniel with venom. "And him? The cop who stole you? Turning you into this." He gestured wildly, the word this a grenade lobbed at Eli's core. Daniel stepped forward, body shielding, voice even. "Mr. Rivera, Elijah's choices are his own, and they're beautiful." But Ramon lunged, grief masquerading as rage, his fist connecting with Daniel's jaw in a crack that echoed like Judgment Day. Chaos erupted, patrons scattering, Sarah materializing from the throng, off-duty but ever ready, pinning Ramon's arms with cop precision. Eli shoved between them, tears carving tracks through paint smudges. "Stop. This isn't you, Papa. The church lied to us, all of it." Ramon's struggle ebbed, his face crumpling from wrath to wreckage, the fight draining into sobs. "I lost you, Eli, to save you from hell." The confession hung, raw and revelatory, as security cleared the space, leaving father and son in a bubble of broken bonds. Later, in the ER's sterile hum, Daniel's jaw bruised but unbroken, ice pack numbing more than the swelling. Eli sat vigil, fingers tracing the ring's band. He came alone, you know. The cousins bailed when Sarah flashed the badge. Daniel winced, not from pain, but possibility. Maybe that's a start. Eli nodded, but doubt clouded his gaze. What if it's not enough? What if he drags us back to court? The legal storm broke Monday. Ramon's petition for custody, filed pro Southeast in family court, alleging undue influence by Daniel. painting him as a predator in lurid legalese cribbed from online forums. The judge, a stern woman with wire rims and a rainbow pin discreet on her lapel, scheduled a hearing, her gavel a guillotine's promise. Daniel lawyered up through Sarah's contacts, a sharp ACLU attorney named Theo, who specialized in queer family law, his bow tie a flamboyant fuck you to convention. We've got precedents stacked like Jenga, Theo assured over diner coffee, steam rising like hope. And that cafe footage? Gold for showing Ramones the threat. Prep was grueling. Mock cross-exams in Daniel's apartment, Eli practicing poise under Theo's rapid-fire questions, his answers steadying from stammers to steel. Daniel watched, pride mingling with terror, the boy who'd trembled at a bus stop now commanding the room, his sketches pinned to the fridge like talismans. Nights blurred into intimacy's quiet forge, shared showers steaming with laughter over burnt toast, Eli's head on Daniel's chest as they dissected case files, the rhythm of breaths a counterpoint to the world's discord. Hearing day dawned gray, the courthouse a colossus of marble and memory, echoing Daniel's own custody battles after Jake, losing touch with his niece because unfit uncle. They entered arm in arm, Eli's hands slick with nerves, Ramon's side sparse, a court-appointed advocate and a priest in clericals, Bible clutched like a shield. The judge's chambers felt like a confessional gone wrong, air thick with testimony's weight. Ramon took the stand first, voice booming with rehearsed piety, tales of Eli's troubled youth, the attack as divine warning, Daniel as corrupting force. The priest corroborated, scriptures flying like arrows. Daniel's turn was clinical, logs of interventions, psych evals praising Eli's stability, the note's authenticity verified by forensics. But Eli's testimony cracked the facade. Poised, he recounted the bruises hidden under long sleeves, the sermons that shamed his soul, the night he wrote the note with a pocketknife's edge to his wrist, paused only by Daniel's spectral memory. And now, the judge prompted, eyes soft behind glasses. Eli glanced at Daniel, love a lighthouse in his gaze. Now I live, truly, with someone who sees me whole. Ramon shifted, chains rattling in his soul, and in recess, he cornered Eli in the hall. Is this what you want, Iho? To shame me? Eli's response was a gut punch. No, Papa. To free us both. Tears welled in Ramon's eyes, the dam breaking. He withdrew the petition that afternoon, signing over emancipation papers with a hand that shook like Eli's had at the bus stop. Relief crashed like waves, but ripples lingered. Ramon's apology letter arriving weeks later, scrawled in block letters. Forgive an old fool, a seed planted in uncertain soil. Eli framed it beside his first gallery acceptance, a quiet reconciliation brewing over sporadic coffees, Maria bridging the gap with her chatterbox charm. Meanwhile, Daniel's world shifted tectonic. The book deal solidified, chapters pouring out in fevered bursts, Eli illustrating covers with fluid grace. Department wins changed too. Ruiz pulling him aside post-shift, gruff admission. Saw the hearing. You fight clean. Promotion's yours if you want it. Diversity liaison. Daniel accepted. The role a bridge from isolation to influence. His speeches at recruit academies laced with Eli's stories, anonymized but alive. Their love deepened in the mundane miracles. Weekend hikes in the Palisades. Eli's laughter echoing off cliffs. Cooking classes where Daniel's sauce always curdled. Eli's patience a gentle roast. Conflicts arose, of course. Daniel's overtime clashing with Eli's deadlines. A flare-up over closet space that escalated to slammed doors, only to resolve in tear-streaked makeups, vulnerabilities bared like offerings. I push because I care, Daniel confessed one night, stars pricking the skyline from their fire escape. Eli nodded, chin on knee. And I pull back because I'm scared of losing. But we balance, don't we? A surprise twist came via Maria. At 12, fierce as her brother, she'd unearthed family lore, a great-uncle, Tomas, who'd fled to Greenwich Village in the 70s, living openly until AIDS claimed him, his letters hidden in attic boxes. Eli pored over them, yellowed pages whispering of hidden loves and quiet revolts, inscribing one quote on his studio wall. Love is the truest rebellion. It became their mantra, etched into anniversary tattoos, subtle, intertwined initials on inner wrists. Yet external storms gathered. A precinct scandal, Marco's accomplices spilling dirt on higher-ups, pulling Daniel into internal affairs probes. Nights stretched long, Eli waiting up with tea and worry lines, his support a scaffold against the siege. One brutal interrogation, Daniel emerged hollow, collapsing into Eli's arms with sobs wrenched from the gut. What if they take it all? The job us. Eli held him, fierce. Then we build again. From the note that started it. The climax crested in a department gala, black ties and forced civility masking fractures. Daniel, in tuxedo sharp as his resolve, introduced Eli to the brass. My partner, artist extraordinaire. The word partner a gauntlet thrown. Whispers swirled, but Sarah's toast cut through. To Hayes, who reminds us badges beat for justice, not just the beat. Cheers rose, tentative then thunderous, a turning point etched in champagne flutes. As they danced under chandeliers, Eli's head on Daniel's shoulder, the world narrowed to this. Two men, forged in fire, swaying to a future of their making. The note, tucked in a drawer, yellowing but eternal, a hook that had reeled in not just survival, but a love vast as the city lights below. Winter clamped Brooklyn in its icy jaws, snow drifts piling like unresolved grudges against the curbs, turning commutes into battles of will. Daniel shoveled the walk to their new place, a two-bedroom in Crown Heights, rent split with Eli's scholarship stipends and Daniel's liaison bonus, his breath clouding in the dawn chill, muscles burning a welcome distraction from the case files haunting his sleep. The promotion had thrust him into the spotlight. Mandatory trainings on cultural competency, panels with activists who eyed his uniform like a Trojan horse, the weight of being the department's gay face chafing against his skin. Eli emerged bundled in a scarf he'd knit himself, lopsided stitches, colors riotous as his palettes, handing over a thermos of spiked cocoa with a grin that melted the frost. Fuel for the hero, he teased, but his eyes held shadows, the gallery's winter show looming, his pieces vulnerable as exposed nerves. They'd argued last night over it, Daniel's schedule clashing with the opening, a late stakeout on a biased crime ring pulling him away. You promised, Eli had accused, voice cracking like thin ice. This is my world bleeding for you. Daniel's apology had been fervent, kisses trailing regrets, but the rift lingered, a hairline fracture in their foundation. At the precinct, the air crackled with fresh tension, a string of assaults on trans youth in Bushwick, whispers pinning it on a remnant of Marco's crew, out for revenge. Daniel's team assembled in the war room, maps pinned with red threads, coffee rings staining strategy sheets, Sarah at his flank, her dry wit a shield. These bastards think we're soft now, she muttered, circling a cluster of hits. Time to prove them wrong. Daniel nodded, but his mind snagged on Eli's vulnerability. The attacks echoed too closely to that park night, slurs carved into flesh like echoes of Eli's note. The investigation ignited fast, undercover buys in dive bars, tails on suspects with rap sheets longer than subway delays. Daniel pulled double shifts, adrenaline a cruel mistress, collapsing home to Eli's worried brows and microwave dinners. Their intimacy frayed at the edges, conversations clipped, touches tentative, the ring's gleam a reminder of vows strained. One midnight, Daniel stumbled in reeking of alley grime, Eli waiting in lamplight, sketchpad abandoned. Tell me you're safe, Eli demanded, not a question. Daniel pulled him close, the hug fierce. Always for you. But safety was illusion. A tip led them to a warehouse rave, bass thumping like heart attacks, where Daniel's cover blew in a scuffle, fists flying, a blade nicking his arm before backup swarmed. The ER again, stitches pulling like accusations, Eli's hand vice-tight in his. This job, it's killing you. Daniel winced, the words truer than the antiseptic sting. It's saving them, like it saved me for us. Eli's tears fell hot, a baptism. But who's saving you? The question burrowed deep, seeding change. Meanwhile, Eli's show prep consumed him. Canvases sprawling the living room, themes of queer resilience in bold strokes, one piece a diptych of Daniel's hands, one clenched in fury, the other open in offering. Critics buzzed online, but sabotage lurked. Anonymous emails to the gallery. Cancel the fag exhibit or else. Laced with Marco's old venom. Eli confided in Lena over studio visits. Her wisdom a lighthouse. Art's your armor, Mijo. Wear it proud. Still, fear gnawed, manifesting in nightmares where crowds jeered, paint running like blood. The opening night arrived swathed in flurries, the gallery a beacon amid slushy streets, walls aglow with Eli's visions. Daniel arrived early, bandaged arm hidden under wool, mingling with patrons whose small talk masked curiosity. So, the cop and the artist, how's that work? A curator probed, champagne flute tilted. Daniel's smile was steel, like fire in canvas. We burn bright. Eli entered like a revelation, black jeans and silk shirt hugging his frame, nerves alight, but eyes sparkling. Their gaze locked across the room, a current pulling taut. The crowd swelled, supporters from the shelter, Sarah in a pantsuit sharp as her aim, even Maria with her latest crush in tow, giggling at the abstracts. Ramon's absence loomed, an invited ghost. Eli's olive branch, RSVP'd but unmet. Toasts rang out, Eli's speech halting then soaring. These works are for the trembling boys at bus stops, the lovers who dare in the dark. For Daniel, who taught me courage wears many faces. Applause thundered, but midway, the door banged open. Ramon, coat dusted white, face etched with resolve and regret. He wove through, ignoring stares, stopping before the diptych. It's you, he rumbled to Eli, voice thick. Both of you. Eli approached, heart hammering visible in his throat. Papa, you came. Ramon's nod was gruff, eyes wet. Maria made me. Said if I miss this, I miss everything. He extended a hand to Daniel. Calloused palm rough as absolution. You kept him safe. Thank you. The handshake sealed tentative peace, Ramon lingering to buy a print, his purchase a quiet vow. But elation soured swift, as guests thinned. A brick shattered the front window, sinner scrawled in red paint across the shards, glass spraying like accusations. Chaos, screams, Eli diving for cover, Daniel drawing his piece in a blur, Sarah barking orders into her radio. The culprit fled into the night, but security cams caught a glimpse, tattoos matching the bias ring. Ramon's face paled, recognizing a nephew's ink. Family again, he muttered, disgust curling his lip. I'll handle it. The cleanup was communal, patrons sweeping, Lena hauling plywood, Maria fetching brooms with kid-fierce determination. Eli salvaged a canvas, paint smeared but spirit intact, collapsing into Daniel's arms amid the debris. They can't break us, he whispered, conviction stealing. Daniel held tighter, the bricks echo a call to arms. Vigil turned vendetta. Daniel's team raided the nephew's flop, nabbing burners and manifestos, the ring unraveling thread by thread. Ramon testified, his words a bombshell. Insider dirt on the family's underbelly, elder cover-ups exposed in affidavits. The arrests made headlines. Cops kin and queer hate bust. Irony a bitter pill. Eli's show reopened stronger, attendance doubling, his work selling out to collectors who saw not shock, but soul. Through it, their bond tempered. Therapy sessions co-led by a queer counselor, unpacking Jake's ghost and Eli's scars. Laughter returning in board game nights, where Daniel's Monopoly ruthlessness drew mock outrage. A getaway to the cabin healed deeper, snowshoeing trails, bonfires crackling confessions, love-making slow and sacred, bodies mapping trust. Spring thawed the ice, blooming cherry trees along the promenade a pink promise. Eli's first solo exhibit beckoned in Chelsea, Daniel's book launch coinciding, blue lines, loving under the badge, signing side by side. Ramon's presence at both, awkward but earnest, marked growth. Dinners where flan followed fraught talks, Maria's chatter the glue. Yet conflict crested anew, a department policy shift, neutral dress codes clashing with pride patches, Daniel's pushback earning demotion threats. Eli, mid-residency, faced a mentor's microaggressions, quitting in a blaze that left him adrift. Their haven strained, arguments flaring over takeout, silences heavy as humidity. The breaking point, a stakeout gone sideways, Daniel grazed by stray fire, hospital lights blurring into Jake's last vigil. Eli arrived wild-eyed, railing at the walls. Choose, Dan, the job or me. The ultimatum sliced deep, Daniel's whisper raw. You. Always. He tendered resignation next dawn, trading SHIELD for advocacy, joining a non-profit bridging cops and communities. Rebirth followed. Joint projects, Eli illustrating Daniel's workshops, their home a hub for support groups. A surprise proposal under those cherry trees, Eli on one knee, ring from Tomas's letters funding the band. Yes, echoing eternal. Summer sun gilded their days, love a garden tended fierce, roots deep against any storm. The heat wave of July turned Brooklyn into a skillet, asphalt shimmering like mirages of escape, air thick with the sizzle of street vendors and unspoken tensions. Daniel's transition to the nonprofit, Bridging Blue, a grassroots org focused on LGBTQ plus police reform, felt like shedding snakeskin, liberating yet raw, his days now filled with town halls and training modules rather than chase lights. Eli thrived in his residency aftermath, freelancing murals for community centers, his brush strokes transforming drab walls into tapestries of triumph. Fists raised in solidarity, lovers entwined under badges reimagined as halos. Their rhythms synced anew, mornings tangled in sheets, coffee brewed to the soundtrack of Eli's podcasts on queer history, evenings on the stoop with neighbors swapping stories over cold beers. Ramon integrated slowly, weekly calls evolving to barbecues where his grill mastery earned grudging respect from Daniel. Maria's somersaults the icebreaker. You're good for him, Ramon admitted one dusk, flipping burgers with tongs that clicked like concessions. Just, don't break his heart. Daniel's nod was solemn, the trust a fragile bloom. But surprises lurked in summer's haze. An invitation to a national conference in D.C., Daniel as keynote on intersectional policing, Eli tagging along as +1 and illustrator. The train ride south was idle, windows framing rolling hills, hands linked over Amtrak trays, whispers plotting futures, a joint loft in the village, adoption dreams for a kid like Maria once was. DC's marble monuments loomed symbolic, the conference a whirlwind of panels and power lunches, Daniel's speech landing like lightning. Badges aren't blindfolds, they're bridges, ovations rippling from skeptics to allies. Eli's sketches from the event went viral, tweeted by organizers, drawing a publisher's eye for a graphic novel collab. Elation peaked at a rooftop mixer, city lights sprawling below, champagne fizzing like fireworks. But a shadow crossed. An ex-colleague, grizzled Detective O'Malley, Jake's old beat partner, who'd blamed Daniel for distracting him that fatal night, cornering him by the bar. Fancy words, Hayes. But you ran when it counted. Left Jake swinging. The accusation hit like a gut punch, dredging guilt Daniel thought buried, his face paling as Eli approached, sensing the storm. Back in the hotel, the fight erupted, Eli demanding details on Jake, Daniel deflecting with walls rebuilt overnight. It's ancient history, he snapped, pacing the carpet. Eli's eyes flashed. No, it's our present. You carry him like a chain. The rawness cracked Daniel open, confessions spilling. The night of the attack, hesitation born of fear for their secret, arriving too late to screams silenced. Eli listened, then enveloped him, tears salting skin. Grieve with me, not against. Dawn brought catharsis, Jake's memory reframed. Not shackle, but spark. Return to Brooklyn brought balance, but conflict brewed domestic. Eli's mural gig in Queens clashing with Daniel's grant deadlines, resentments simmering over divided chores. A blowout over forgotten laundry escalated to "Do you even see me anymore?" Eli storming to Lena's, Daniel alone with echoes. Mediation came via Sarah's no bullshit brunch. Love's not fairy tales. It's fucking trench warfare. Dig in or dig out. Reconciled over mimosas, they instituted check-ins, weekly walks where vulnerabilities aired like laundry. Autumn's palette turned the city to fire, leaves crunching under boots as they navigated deeper waters. Eli's therapy uncovering repressed memories from the family home, panic attacks flaring at church bells toll. Daniel held space, his own sessions unpacking promotion scars, the badge's ghost whispering unworthiness. A joint retreat to the cabin mended. Therapy hikes, bonfires burning old journals, love rekindled in starlit confessions. Twist arrived via mail. Tomas's full archive, willed to Eli by a distant aunt, boxes of letters, photos, a hidden will funding a scholarship in his name. Pourings over faded ink revealed parallels. Uncle Tomas's cop lover, persecuted in the 80s, their story a mirror to theirs. Eli channeled it into her exhibit. Echoes unsilenced. Installations blending Tomas's relics with modern narratives. Daniel curating a police reform corner. The opening was electric. Gallery packed. Ramon unveiling a plaque. For Tomas, who loved first. His voice steady. Redemption etched. Media swarmed, but sabotage struck subtle. Hack projections looping slurs mid-speech. Traced to a reformed Marco's burner phone. His apology, a ploy for leniency. Confrontation at the precinct. Marco in cuffs. Eyes hollow. Eli facing him. Hates a thief. You stole enough. Marco's breakdown. Tears confessing manipulation by elders led to fuller indictments. The family web unraveling. Through it, their friendship circle solidified. Sarah and her wife hosting game nights. Lena's collective dinners a family forge. Maria's quinceañera became milestone. Eli walking her down the aisle in a nod to Ramon. Daniel toasting, to sisters who save us. Joy crested, but high came hurdle. Daniel's grant rejected, funding cuts biting. Eli's exhibit sales lagging in economic pinch. Despair dipped low, bar shifts for Daniel, odd jobs for Eli, strains testing seams. Eviction scare, landlord hiking rents. Pushed them to sublet, dreams dashed. Climax brewed in a blizzard. Power out, huddled under blankets. Eli's whisper run away. Daniel's counter. No. Root deeper. They crowdfunded via the exhibit, community rallying, GoFundMe soaring, neighbors donating art buys. Spring's thaw mirrored renewal, new apartment in Bed-Stuy, walls blank for murals, Daniel's nonprofit securing a big donor post-keynote redux. Love's arc peaked in a vow renewal by the lake. Simple, Sarah officiating, rings exchanged anew. From notes to forever, Eli vowed, kiss ceiling. Summer circled back, he'd a hug now, their story a beacon. Book tours tandem, murals multiplying, hearts entwined unbreakable. The cycle of seasons spun onward, but 2026 ushered in a reckoning broader than borough blocks. National headlines screaming of rollback bills snaking through Congress. Anti-LGBTQ+ riders on must-pass legislation. Whispers of traditional values, masking the vice tightening on rights hard-won. Daniel felt it in the nonprofit's frantic calls, donors hedging bets, trainings canceled by fearful PDs. It's 87 all over, Sarah griped over beers at their local dive. The jukebox crooning Dylan like a dirge. Eli, scrolling feeds on his phone, face ashen amid the neon glow. Protests in D.C. again. We going? The decision crystallized overnight. Yes, a road trip south. Canvas tent for Eli's sketches, Daniel's laptop for live tweeting sessions. Maria begged off school, but Ramon surprised. I'll drive. For once, I fight with you. The van loaded like an ark. Protest signs, sleeping bags, Tomas's letters for talismans. Highway hypnosis set in. Podcasts on Stonewall fueling fire. Pit stops at diners where Ramon's stories flowed freer. His own youthful crush on a farmhand, buried under machismo's mound. D.C. pulsed with fury and fellowship. Mall thronged with rainbows, chants rising like tides. Daniel linking arms with fellow advocates. Eli capturing the surge in quicksilver lines. Ramon's placard, Padre por Igualdad, drew double takes. His interviews with podcasters raw, redemptive. Nights in crowded hostels bred bonds. Shared floors with activists from Atlanta, strategy sessions till dawn. Eli's murals chalked on sidewalks washing away but etching souls. Climax crashed mid-March. The bill's vote loomed, lobbyists swarming like locusts. A counter-rally at the Capitol steps turning tense. Counter-protesters hurling epithets, barriers straining. Daniel waded into a scrum, de-escalating a shove turning shove to shoves. His voice, we're here for peace, a mantra amid melee. Eli filmed, hard in throat, until a bottle sailed. grazing Ramon's temple, blood blooming red. Chaos. Medics rushing. Daniel cradling his almost father-in-law. Eli dialing 911 with trembling thumbs. Hospital wait was agony distilled. Stitches for Ramon. CT clear, but concussion looming. His gruff, worth it, masking wince. In the sterile hush, Ramon gripped Daniel's hand. You and Eli. You're my miracle. Don't let this world dim you. Tears pricked, the patriarch's blessing a balm deeper than ballots. The bill passed narrow, Pyrrhic victory for foes, but the rally's footage, Ramon's fall, Daniel's calm, went viral, swaying senators, amendments stripping the riders in a late-night scramble. Triumph tasted bittersweet. Homeward bound, Van heavy with exhaustion and ephemera, protest pins, Eli's sketchbooks swollen. Brooklyn welcomed weary, but ripples rocked. Daniel's org flooded with support, grants gushing. Eli's graphic novel greenlit. Tomas's tale threaded through. Yet personal tempests brewed. Eli's mural commission in L.A., a month away, clashing with Daniel's fall tour. Go, Daniel urged, masking ache. Your wings, baby. Separation strained. Calls crackling with static and silences. Eli's Insta-stories of sunsets stinging Daniel's snow-shoveled stoop. Loneliness gnawed, old doubts resurfacing. Jake's ghost whispering, not enough. Eli returned bronzed and burdened. A gallery scouts offered dangling relocation. It's big, Dan. But without you. The dinner devolved to debate. Futures forked, love's logistics a labyrinth. Resolution dawned in crisis. A local kid, echo of Eli, jumped at a rave. Daniel first on scene, note in hand. To the cop who, history rhyming. Eli, jet-lagged, met him at the hospital, the boy's story a mirror cracking complacency. We stay, they vowed unison. L.A. deferred, the scouts counter, Brooklyn pop-up. Ramon's wisdom sealed. Roots don't mean stuck, mean strong. Winter wove warmth, holiday lights strung joint. Maria's gift exchange a riot, Ramon's tamales tradition bound. Daniel's book sequel brewed, Eli co-authoring chapters with illustrated interludes. Friendships flowered, a queer youth center launch, their home base camp. Spring surprise, Eli's pregnancy scare. No, a puppy adopted from the shelter, a fluffy mutt named Note. Chaos incarnate but joy's jester. Summer solstice ceremony by the lake. Vows refreshed, Note yipping approval, stars witnesses. Their arc arced eternal. Conflicts conquered, twists transcended, love a lighthouse in life's gales. Years folded like origami, 2030 finding them in a village brownstone, walls alive with Eli's evolutions, murals matured to mastery, galleries from MoMA to global tours. Daniel helmed Bridging Blue nationally, TED Talks his pulpit, badge retired but influence amplified. Maria, 16 and studying law, crashed weekends with rants on poli-sci. Ramon, softened by time, volunteered at the center, his grill-outs legend. Yet the hook's echo lingered. Anniversaries marked by rereading the note, yellowed relic-framed bedside, a talisman against complacency. Conflicts came cyclical. Eli's sabbatical in Paris clashing with Daniel's D.C. fellowship, distance dialing doubts. Are we drifting? Eli Skyped, Eiffel Tower blurring behind. Daniel's reply, flight booked, reunion in croissants and confessions. Twists turned tender, a surrogate offer from a collective couple, dreams of parenthood crystallizing. The journey jagged, IVFs, losses, heartaches hashed in therapy's forge. Success bloomed in a cry at dawn. Baby Alex, hazel eyes hybrid, tiny fists clutching rings. Parenthood reshaped, sleep-deprived symphonies, Eli's lullabies sketched in crayon, Daniel's stories of brave cops and artists' bedtime lore. Challenges crested in colic cries and biased stares at playgrounds, but community cradled. Sarah Antangi fierce, Lena's wisdom woven. Climax quieted domestic. Alex's first steps toward the framed note, toddler fingers tracing to the cop. Eli's tears, Daniel's hug. Full circle, he murmured. Legacy bloomed. Center expansions, books bestsellers. Eli's exhibits etching their tale in public permanence. Through tempests tamed, their love endured. Deep as the note's ink, vast as the city that birthed it. a story unfinished, eternally hooking hearts.